Hello, this is Sierra, and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video inside of Hermitcraft season Clockwork. We are reading chapter 7. And yeah, we've got a few more chapters to go. Yeah, I kinda lied last week's episode. Technically, I misspoke, but yeah, we've got 9 chapters instead of 8. Yeah. Let's get right into it, shall we? Chapter 7. She watched as RJ turned to face the men, surprised to see them standing there. Well, this is certainly unexpected. What is the meaning of this? Devon demanded, firmly, as he took a step forward. Jem watching as the man who had been holding her captive was now inching towards them. Seeing as the men were distracted, she slipped towards the cylinder, kneeling down next to her friend, who was writhing in pain. She could see his chest rising and falling heavily, eyes wide open, terrified as they met with hers. "Help," he rasped weakly, and tears in his eyes. "It hurts." Hang in there, I got this," she told him gently, waiting until he nodded before she stood, seeing the 2 soldiers now attacking him with eyes and Devon, who were now doing a fair job at it, as she extended her sword, planning to shatter the glass. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," RJ's voice said from over her left, as she turned just in time to block an incoming dagger as the man's cold, dark eyes met hers. "Nice one. I don't need compliments from you," she said bitterly. "You're nothing to me." "See, you show no fear," the man chuckled. "You must hide it well." He took a step back and walked over to this panel. His eyes gleamed as he looked over at the device, catching a shift in her expression. "Don't do it," she warned. "Or what? You're gonna kill me?" "Ha! I've seen people try," the man sneered darkly. "I've seen all of them fail." "Well then, maybe I'll be the outlier," she said as she lifted her chin up. "What would change, though, my dear, if you weren't able to stop me from just finishing him off right here, right now?" The man chuckled. "He might just crumble if you so much as sneezed." She narrowed her eyes. "Your threats don't scare me." "You sound confident, but I could see through those words," the man said with a dark grin. "I see the scared little girl inside, the one who refuses to admit that she's failed." Yet again, she stared at the man intently. "What makes you say I failed anyone?" The man shrugged. "You can't save everyone, not even the people who are meant to protect you." She bit her bottom lip as she glanced over at Scar, who wasn't writhing as much anymore. That was good. It meant that the poison effect had worn off. Now he just needed to recover, so long as RJ didn't try anything that might counter that. She looked over at the man again. "What do you want from us, then?" "Truth," the man replied, narrowing his eyes. "Guess the truth isn't what it seems, then," she shrugged. "Seems so," the man said with a slight smile as he hovered a finger over the button. She so badly wanted to lunge at him. She had another idea. Before the man could react, she swung her sword at the glass cylinder, seeing it smash immediately as she stumbled back by the force. Feeling a few shards cut her arms, she winced, but her overalls seemed to have spared her legs. Most of the shards were harmless, though, as the man pressed the button. As an effect, was shot down, and she smelled a strange, weird smell that she'd never smelled before. It also felt familiar. "Silas! Devon! Help!" she moaned. She felt herself falling helplessly to the floor once again, as the darkness consumed her, fading into unconsciousness as she heard RJ's distant laughter before there was nothing more. She groaned as she felt something shaking her, part of her not wanting to wake up, not wanting to open her eyes. Sleep was so peaceful, nothing like the world outside. She slowly regained her consciousness. She felt pain, not too much pain, but it was enough to bring her back to reality as she slowly opened her eyes to see someone staring down at her, a familiar face. "Silas?" she asked groggily, as he put a finger to her lips to shush her before lifting her head to help her drink something. Gentle and warm, refreshing as the pain faded away. She let out a relieved sigh as she managed to sit up, finding herself still in the same room, safely away from the shards from the broken cylinder. But RJ and his men were nowhere to be found. She looked around until she found Devon tending to another form in the ground. She scrambled to her feet before Matthias could stop her, stumbling over until she arrived next to the man. She looked down to see Scar lying there on the floor, conscious. She bit her bottom lip as she noticed Devon give her a glance. Sleeping potion unfortunately put him into a coma-like state, the man said with a frown. Good to see we have to carry one less person out of here. Is it bad? She asked with concern. Shouldn't be, just with everything he's been through, it might take him a bit to recover, Jen sighed. Which means we won't be able to return home right away. Where are the other men? Jem pressed. They disappeared after you two were doused with that potion, the man sighed. We tried to help, but by the time we got there, you both were fast asleep. She nodded her head. I'm sure they'll be back soon. We can't stay here. Devon nodded as he put some things in a shulker box and stored it away, getting to his feet just as the both heard a groan from below as Jem tilted her head curiously. That's a good sign, Matthias mused with a chuckle. As the others didn't say anything as Devon buzzed down, gently shook the YouTuber by the shoulders. A moment passed, then another, for another groan escaped the YouTuber's lips. Finally, though, he opened his eyes, looking at them with a smile. I'm guessing the sleeping potion wasn't as strong as I feared. Devon sighed with relief. I am doing very bad with spelling. He held out a hand. Do you think he can walk? Yeah, probably. No, well, Scar admitted as the man helped him to his feet. The YouTuber looked over at Jem. I always knew you'd do it. I didn't do it alone, she admitted with a smile. You're feeling better, though? I'm still feeling rather sleepy, Scar admitted. Probably pass out as soon as I find a bed. She laughed. Fine with that. Come on, let's go. Either way, Zaya said obediently. We have your back. Jem nodded as she walked out of the room, down the hallway towards the stairs. Silence was a bit unnerving as she climbed the steps. Their creaking felt all the more real now. Were the men just going to let them out at this point? Or were they waiting for them upstairs? I have a feeling RJ isn't just going to let us out that easily, she admitted as they made it to the top, glancing back at her friends as her friends followed suit. Don't worry, we got this, Matthias said defiantly. She could see Scar nodding in agreement behind him, his smile sincere and more relieved. She supposed the man had been given a regeneration potion or something to bring him back to this strength. Because before, she wasn't sure he'd be able to walk on it. They managed to get halfway down the hallway, just as an alarm began to blare, and they heard shouts from outside, as well as doors opening from behind them. She looked back to see men chasing them as she instinctively grabbed Scar's hand as they began to run, knowing the others would be just behind as she ran for the front door entrance, hoping they'd be able to get out without it being locked. Suddenly, she remembered something as she looked over at Scar. If you'd be willing to help me with the boost, I just might be able to fly us out of here, she said with a smile. The man nodded as she heard another holler of encouragement from one of their escorts. They'd be fine, so long as the two of them were safe. She pulled out a rocket just as she ran outside, Scar clinging onto her firmly as they both leaped into the air. They both glided into the sky, soaring away from the arrows that were flying below. Do you think those guys have a chopper around here? Scar asked nervously as once they were in the air. I wouldn't have done this if there was one. She smirked. They're lost. The YouTuber laughed. View from up here looks cool. So cool. Yeah, she smiled, pointing over to the town she could see ahead. Do you see that house over in the center? Aim for that. The YouTuber nodded as they glided towards the large house, launching themselves higher when needed, before they arrived safely into the farm area of the house, landing gracefully as she touched her feet on the grass. I think I've had any good food in a while, Scar admitted sadly, looking over at the wheat, potatoes, carrots, beetroot, and melons they could see. Must change that then, she replied, as she realized just how dark it was outside. Day had long since passed, and now the night had come. It was slowly becoming early morning. They'd really been gone the whole day. She headed down the stairs to Scar's, with Scar right behind, as she noticed someone turning a corner, momentarily startled to see them. Oh, hi, Jem, Stampy said sheepishly with a smile. It almost sounded forced in some way. She wasn't sure how to place it. It looks to me your mission was successful? Yeah, she nodded, noticing a dog cowering behind the cat's legs, her eyes watching the two of them warily. Who's that you have there? Oh, this is Secret. I found her down in my sacred base. In the cloning machine, the cat said simply. His expression fell slightly as he glanced back over towards the park. I need to go back to the others. The helpers have set up a party for us today in the park. I want to invite you, but I think you're a bit busy. Tell us about it afterwards. Thanks for the offer, though, Jem said cheerfully, as the cat smiled and waved, running off to the dog with the dog right behind him. Really want to go to that party now, Scar said a little bitterly. We ain't gonna have a welcome home party when we get home, she promised, as she gently pushed him into the house and guided him towards the living room, deciding it was the best place for him to rest in privacy. Once they arrived, Scar looked over at the couch as he immediately went over and plopped down on top of it, lying down on it with a sigh. I was going to make you a bed, but I guess that's okay, she muttered with a smile. The bed can wait, Scar smiled at her brightly. I need some sleep, desperately. I won't stop you, she nodded, as the YouTuber closed his eyes and dozed off. She quietly crafted a bed and put it on the corner by the television before walking over to the kitchen to pull out a chair and sit down. She'd be here until the 2 escorts arrived, but before she herself would get some sleep. She wasn't too keen on leaving her friend alone if she could help it. It was a safety protocol. Episode 21, Chapter 8. She opened her eyes. Jem opened her eyes the next morning, realizing almost immediately that she was still in the kitchen, having fallen asleep while waiting for Matthias and Devon to return. She pulled back the chair as she stood, stretching before wiping the sleepers out of her eyes. She wasn't exactly sure how long she had slept for, but the effects of the sleeping potion were well past her as she walked into the living room to check on Scar, who was still peacefully sleeping on the couch, alongside with a new sheet over him, as she knew she had put before. Someone must have come in and done it for him. She looked back over to the kitchen, and sure enough, there was a second bedsheet lying on the floor in front of the chair she'd been sleeping in, as she smiled, going over to pick it up and put it safely in the chest for later. When she was satisfied, she rummaged through the kitchen, finding something to eat as she added a plate full of food for Scar, planting it on a table not too far from the couch, hoping he'd see the gesture. Afterwards, she went over to the door and opened it, to spot someone standing outside the door. Not just two, someone stopped. Good morning, Jem, Matthias said with a wave. I'm glad you both made it back in one piece, she said cheerfully. Our job is to protect, Devon replied matter-of-factly. So, it's good that see that doing well. Yeah, she nodded as she glanced back over towards the living room. Did you see anyone walking in to check on us last night by any chance? Both men smiled and shook their heads. She sighed and headed towards the cat's bedroom, hoping she'd get a chance to update the others about the success and maybe plan a welcome home party, as she had promised Scar the night before. Neither of the men tried to stop her, even though she could feel them watching her as she opened the door, looking to see Stampy rummaging through the chest before he pulled out something. It appeared to be a gray collar as he knelt down and put it around Secret's neck. The dog wagged her tail happily before her attention was directed to Jem, who made the cat look up. Oh, hello. Hello there. I didn't see you come in. Yeah, she smiled. What are you up to? I was planning on doing something special for some of my dogs, the cat admitted slowly. There was an attack last night by its target where he used my cloning machine to clone Secret here, and he used that army against me. I unfortunately lost 3 of my dogs during that attack. Oh no! Jem gasped in horror. I'm so sorry to hear that. Is there anything I can do? I think I want to do this by myself, though I'll let Sam supervise just to be safe. The cat smiled sadly. I really missed them already. I'm sure, she nodded. Which ones were they? Cat took a deep breath. Fluffy, Corey, Bidgie. Oh, she replied, looking at her feet for a long moment. I really am sorry to hear that. That really had to be hard on you. Yeah, the cat nodded. On the bright side, though, we have a new dog, and they can no longer abuse my cloning machine. So, it's gone. That's good, she smiled. Probably should leave you to it then. No, it's okay, the cat said quickly. I did want to check on you last night, but both you and your friend were fast asleep. I wanted to make sure you guys were okay. we're fine. We made it out of him with one piece, she said with a chuckle. That's good, the cat nodded. I'm assuming you wanted to use the communicator again. Is that okay? She asked with uncertainty. Of course, it's fine, the cat smiled. I'll see you in a bit before we head off then? She asked. She asked. When will you four be leaving? The cat asked, curiously. I don't know, she admitted. The whole thing back there was really confusing now, and scary. Do you want to talk about it? The cat asked, as he sat down on his bed, patting a spot next to him. She hesitated for a moment before walking over to him and sitting down. I just have a sinking feeling Scar knows something both me and RJ didn't, she admitted. I tried to ask him before and the man walked in, but we never got to it. Gives you the idea, the cat pressed encouragingly. Well, for one, the man went after him, captured him, and RJ thinks he knows about some friends living in a village that he wants to know more about, she replied. Does he? Dappy pondered. He told me he didn't, that RJ wanted information he didn't have, Jim stated. Cat snorted. Maybe he's right. How? She asked. The cat gave her a knowing smile. I think it's better if you asked him that. She sighed. Do you know... I have a theory, but I think it's better if you hear it from him, the cat chuckled. All right, I'll probably have a chat with him when he wakes up, she replied matter-of-factly. First, I need to let my friends know the good news. If the cause hasn't beat me to it. They held it off. Don't worry, the cat confirmed. The two of them wanted to leave that up to you to decide. After all, you've become pretty good friends with them already, it seems. She nodded with her head as she got to her feet. Well, that was definitely insightful. I'll see you later then. Good luck. Thanks, the cat replied as she walked over to the painting and stepped through, going up to the communicator, excited to share the good news. It wouldn't be long before she saw them all again. She couldn't wait. Chapter 9. Let's finish it. Why not? Jim climbed down the ladder from the communicator room, which also was known as the Room of No Requirement, feeling happier than she had before going up there. Hearing her friends' excitement when they heard the news of Scar's rescue and their eventual return home was something she would not forget anytime soon. She hadn't been able to tell them on a specific day, nor could she have told them if she wanted to, since she knew it was never a safe thing to do on something like the communicator. It's always better to stay safe than to be sorry. She walked into Stampy's bedroom, finding it completely empty from the cat and the dogs. The only thing she could see was a chicken, Esther, jumping on a cake on the balcony, living the dream. She smiled as she walked out of the room, assuming the cat must have taken the dogs with him to build a memorial for his deceased dogs. She tried not to think about it too much as she walked over to the living room, seeing the two men still standing there, giving her a light greeting as she approached. I have a good feeling that Scar is awake, Matthias said with a wink as he nodded towards the room. He said he wanted to see you about an unresolved discussion. Right, she replied with a nod. How surprised the young man still remembered. Thanks for the heads up. Anytime, the man replied, as happily as she opened the door and walked in, seeing Scar sitting on the couch, staring at the blank television before looking over at her with a casual smile. Looks like you managed to make it, Scar said with a chuckle. Thanks for the breakfast, by the way. You're welcome, she smiled as she scooted over, opening a spot for her to stand on the couch. She did so as she glanced over at the blank television. So you wanted to talk to me about something? Yeah, Scar nodded, his head slowly. A lot happened last night, as you probably know. It has for a lot of us, yep, she replied. You're feeling better about all that? That was a lot of potions, he nodded. I feel a whole lot better, though I think I've hit the limit on how much potion-wise I can handle. Last night was a lot more than I expected. Almost as bad as the first time. He shuddered and he shook his head slowly. Man, it was brutal. Yeah, she agreed. I really wanted something from you. Yep, it was something I didn't even have, he sighed. So I pretended I did, so he wouldn't end up killing me. What do you think he wanted from you, other than just information? She asked. The man shrugged. Wanted information about specific people. People, of course, I didn't know about. Why would you think he'd think that you did? Jim pressed. Because I wasn't the guy he wanted. Wait, really? She asked in surprise. Nope. The YouTuber replied matter-of-factly. How does something like that happen? She asked softly. I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and they assumed I was the man they were looking for. Now, RJ never met this man before, but Mr. A had. And the man wanted to get information from this guy, so he sent a brand new batch of men to fetch him, and got me instead. So they were after Green the whole time. Champions. You got it! This guy laughed. I had to pretend, to make sure they didn't find out or get Mr. A to fact-check anything. RJ was too stubborn, because he was so sure he had the right guy. I really didn't want them to find out the truth and go after Green. The smile fell as he looked down at his feet. Sure, you'd understand why. We were attacked because someone had followed Green back from his friend's world, which happened to be in a village full of YouTubers. He'd already been through a lot, and I thought it was the least I could do to spare him from something like that. She nodded, understanding, as she put a hand on his shoulder. What's that? I'd do it again, all over again in a heartbeat, Scar said confidently. Pearl would know. She heard me say it to the front of the man's brother. Jim chuckled. I'm sure they'd figure it out eventually. Oh, they will, Scar agreed. You did not see that. I just hope we can make sure they don't get what they want. They won't, she said sincerely. The YouTuber smiled up at her. Thanks again for helping me back there. Literally the only hope I had. That's a lot of pressure to put on a girl like me. She chuckled. But you did it, Scar replied happily. He let out a sigh as the moment passed. I really miss home. So do I, she agreed. We should be able to come home soon. With a huge party and everything? Scar asked. Absolutely, she nodded, and they both shared smiles. She couldn't wait to come home and see the other hermits again. She already missed the fun they had there, even though it had been fun being here as well. Her home was with her friends, and she'd have it no other way, one way or another. She'd have it one way or another. That was a tough one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Part 5 is coming soon. Story 5 is coming soon. You might have seen a glimpse. Yep. I won't tell you. Like, if you saw it, you saw it. If you didn't, don't worry about it. I mean, you could just go back and just see it, but like... Anyway, I'm just gonna end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And be sure to let me know any other ideas, other thoughts, other questions you might have. And, I mean, yeah. I'll see you whenever that might... I'll see you again soon, whenever that might be.